Welcome everybody to our Monday night shiur, special edition Purim Katan.
Wow.
This only happens every 3 or so years when there is Shanat HaYibur. So tonight is a special opening of Et Ratzon. Et Ratzon. I was speaking before I start the Hagdashot, the dedications. We have a lot of people that sponsored our shiur today. We have a lot, Baruch Hashem, Kiyad HaMelech. And so before we start, I want to say one interesting thing that I was learning. One of the sponsors actually of tonight's shiur, he's not here tonight, he's in Lakewood. But he bought me a book, a new book that came out by Rav Chaim de la Rosa, the Torah Chacham. Very big Mikubal he was. A famous story goes that he was the main student of the Rashash, Rav Shalom Gadaev. Rav Shalom Gadaev. We all know who the Rashash is. It's that Sidur where you open up the page, you have one word over there and 5 pages of kavanot. That's Sidur Rashash. So the Torah Chacham, Rav Chaim de la Rosa, was his student. And so I got his book recently. It's an updated version. One small story about the Torah Chacham. Rav Chaim de la Rosa, he was from Greece, Saloniki. Before the Germans, say Amen. Before they came and destroyed the European Jewry, Saloniki, Greece, was one of the Merkazim. It was one of the bases of Judaism in Europe. One of the bases. The Jewish people in Saloniki could date almost 700-800 years. Came Imach Shemo, I don't want to say his name, and wiped them all out. Many of their graves, we don't even know where they are today. Many of the big tzaddikim. In fact, one of the big tzaddikim, his name was Rav Yosef Taitachak. Greek? Light a candle for him. The Zecher of Yosef Taitachak. I'm telling you, something is going to happen. No, he was Greek. From Saloniki. He was actually supposed to write the Shulchan Aruch. Wow. He was supposed to write it. The Chida brings down in Shem HaGedolim, Rav Yosef Taitachak. He didn't sleep in a bed for a certain amount of years. He used to sleep on the chair, learning Torah. Mitnamnem, wake up, sleep, wake up, sleep. And he also had a Magid. A Magid is an angel that's made from your Torah that would teach you secrets of the Torah. Just like Rav Yosef Karo, the Shulchan Aruch. Rav Yosef Taitachak. He was from Saloniki. So the Torah Chacham, Rav Chaim de la Rosa, he was from Saloniki. But his family comes from the city of Rosa in Spain. When Isabel and Ferdinand, Yamach Shabam V'Zichram, for a couple of bucks, because they were out of money, they sold out the Jews, just so they could get, just so he could marry Isabella. Isabella is a very bad name. I don't know why Jewish people put name to their daughters. Isabella in Hebrew is Izebel. Izebel is one of the worst queens that were ever for the Jewish people. She wanted to kill Eliyahu HaNavi. It's actually this week's Haftarah, Maftir. So interesting how it gets together. So Isabella, she told Ferdinand, she said, "You marry me Isabella on one condition." Oh, she was Catholic, very deep Catholic, hardcore. And she had this Dominican monk that she used to listen to, Turkamada, Shem Rishayim Yirkav. He was this Dominican monk, not Dominican as the Dominican Republic. I'm talking about the Kritmach Dominican. These are the guys who came up with the whole thing of knock on wood. You know that thing that Bukharians do, knock on wood? That's that the root of that is Avodah Zarah. The root. I'm not saying if you do that it's Avodah Zarah. I'm just saying the root of that is Avodah Zarah. So she told Ferdinand, if you want to marry me and get Kesef Ezahav, you got to exile all the Jews. Now there was one problem. His advisor, of course, all the Jews are always in the cabinet. And his financial secretary of treasury was a Jew, none other than the Abarbanel. He's one of the greatest Rishoni Acharonim. Well, he's quasi Rishon Acharoni, so he's in the middle over there. So Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. He's not even called Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel. Don means like the Don, the Don, right? So the Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. So he told the Abarbanel. He said to him, "Look," and he was very rich. The Abarbanel said to Ferdinand, he said, "I will pay all my." He was very rich. I will give you all my riches. Just don't marry her. and he was tempted to listen to him, but at the last second he gave in to the pressure of the court to exile the Jews. And he told Don Yitzchak, he said, stay. He said, I let you stay. I'm giving you a special pass. He said, where my people go, I go. He packed up his bags. No, he couldn't take any money. They couldn't take anything with him.
He did famous speech right before he left.
Yeah, by the way, the rabbis, when they left Spain, they made a cherem. They said no Jew could ever go back in Spain and live. They made a cherem in Spain. Wow. They made a serious cherem. That's why till today, for some reason, the Jewish, no matter they give citizenship back, they give this back, the Jews just, the community doesn't grow. It's a special cherem on Spain. Wow. Because the reason why they kicked us out was for nothing. You understand? It was for money. You understand? Till today, there is no normal Jewish, and they give the citizenship back. If anybody could prove that his family is Spanish, there's somebody Spanish, they give you citizenship, free citizenship. You understand? But no, there's no, it doesn't hold the thing over there. So one of the cities over there, inside Spain, was city of Rose. And the Torah Chacham's family, Rav Chaim Dila Rosa, he came from that part of the town. Now, the Abarbanel, where did he go? Where did he run away to? The funny thing is, after the Romans, when they killed and massacred the Jews, and they sold Jews as gladiators, most gladiators were Jews after the destruction of the second temple. Rish Lakish was a gladiator. They say he was head of the mafia. Victor Miller says he wasn't the head of no mafia. Rish Lakish means he was the head gladiator. He used to people used to also sell themselves as gladiators for hire to make a little bit of cash. So Rish Lakish, he was one of those kind of guys. They used to sell themselves as fighters. Like you have today UFC, Shmu FC, all that sitra achra.
What if you have to go against the Jew?
Also back then, they used to have these kind of things, gladiators.
Their TV. They're going to put you against the Jew. How are you going to kill the?
Do you know the Romans? I'm sorry to say, today's the V-Day. So the Romans, they had such economic problems. Look how smart they were. They had such economic problems. It was a huge empire. It was literally all of Europe and some of minor Asia Minor. They didn't know what to do because people didn't have food to eat. So what they used to do, there was a point in Rome, they had 180 days, 180 holidays. And what they used to do during those holidays? Food in the streets, festivities, everybody's having fun over there. Why? It's to take the people's mind off of the lack of parnasa. You understand? It was a diversion. Some people made the parnasa, exactly. Now, so Rav Chaim de la Rosa, his family, they went to, now the Barbanel, he went to Naples, Italy. One of the most safest places for Jews, interestingly speaking, in the last 1,000 years, was, guess what? Italy. Italy was one of the, when Yimach Shemo, I don't want to say his name, the H guy, who's Haman, he was the Gilgul of Haman, and those 10 guys that were hanged were his. Everyone knows that whole thing, right? We don't need to go over that. His 10 guys were the 10 sons of the Haman that were hanged, right? On Purim, by the way, they were hanged on Purim, and one of them, the 11th one, was a transgender, and there was, Haman had 10 sons and 1 daughter. I think his name was Goring. Goring? Yeah, something like that. So when he came to Mussolini, and he said, "Give me your Jews." Mussolini didn't give over the Jews, the dictator.
He said, "I don't have no Jews."
He said, "I don't have any Jews." Funny, it's crazy because Mussolini was an Italian. He's a Roman. Right. He didn't give over the Jews. He didn't give him over. When he went to the king of Morocco also. He said because Hitler sent Yimach Shemo, I said his name. I have to go to the mikvah now. when he sent the Desert Fox, General Rommel, he sent him to destroy the North African Jewry, which he did. And he went to Morocco and he said, "Give me your Jews." The king of Morocco said, "There's no Jews over here. There's only Moroccans. I don't know what you're talking about." So there were places in the world where Jews were kind of safe. There's anti-Semitism, of course, but they were always safe in biklalut, in the general way. So, but the Jews in Spain were not just, they had the 400 or 500 year period of just flourishing Torah. The Rambam was a young boy when he had to run away from Spain. This was during the Almohadens. The Almohadens, those were fanatical Muslims that came to kill the Jews. Like either you convert or or died. And the Rambam was a young man. He was like 6-7 years old, and his father, Rabbi Maimon Sfaradi. You guys know the minhag to eat jelly donuts on Hanukkah comes from Rabbi Maimon Sfaradi. Comes from the one thing we have left from the Rambam's father is to eat the jelly donuts. Huh? I don't know if Rav Shalom Gadaev. I saw it in the Sefer in the name of Rabbi Maimon Sfaradi. The Rambam was a young man and he ran away. Where did he run away to? Rambam. When he was a young boy, he went away to Morocco. From Morocco, they ran away to Israel. When they went to Israel, guess who was waiting for them over there? You see, we live in a time, even with all the anti-Semitism, this past Shabbat, in some place in Forest Hills, I don't want to say it, blank the Jews, all over, in Queens. But even with all of that, you're living in a machaya. Back then, to be a Jew was mamash a sakanat nefashot. Sakanat nefashot. When he got to Israel, guess who was waiting for him? King John. King Richard, the Lionheart. King Richard, the Lionheart. You know in Robin Hood? King Richard? Not King John. King John was the one that stayed. King Richard, the Lionheart, was an anti-Semite. When he was coronated as King of England, there was riots in England, in Britain, and they slaughtered Jews in the streets. And one of them was the Baalei Tosafot. The Baalei Tosafot of York. We're in New York. New York is named after York in England. He was massacred on the days of the coronation of Richard the Lionheart. And Richard the Lionheart took the Crusades to Israel. Rambam got over there and he went from the fire to the frying pan. Where did he run away at the end? He had no choice but to run away to the one place where the Torah says you're not allowed to go and live. Egypt. They say the Rambam, when he used to sign his letters, he used to write, I don't know if this is true, but they say there's letters like this. The Rambam says, I am Moshe ben Maimon, that goes over 3 asses of the Torah every day. That's how he used to sign it. There is letters like that. I've never seen it, but I heard it from a very reputable historian. But in Egypt, he was fine. And when he went to Egypt, who did the Rambam meet? This was the past day reformers. Karaim, they were called. Karaites. The Rambam was a one-man army. This guy, all of his life was 59 years. He didn't even live to the age of 60, the Rambam. He used to travel from the Jewish ghetto to Fostat. Fostat was Cairo, on a donkey.
Wow, no planes, nothing.
Every day, because he was the king. He was the king's physician. Now, back then, what does that mean? The king's physician, the king. Who was the king? Who was the king back then? Who was the king in time? Saladin himself. He was the guy who whooped Richard the Lionheart. He whooped Richard the Lionheart.
The Rambam had a choice to also be.
Yeah, that's a legend. That's a legend. I don't know how true that is. It's a legend.
But he was a personal doctor. Why didn't he get all this?
What does it mean? He was his personal doctor. Saladin had a harem. A harem means like Achashverosh had a house full of women. Like this, Saladin had a house. And tarang every day. Saladin. Chimichangas.
Party every day.
Salah. Rambam's job was to make sure that the king wouldn't get any diseases. So he didn't have the most. I would say he had the most disgusting job. It was it wasn't a nice thing to do. And with all of that, he still taught the Torah, wrote the Mishneh Torah, wrote Pirush HaMishnayot, Sefer HaMitzvot in Hebrew and in Arabic, wrote Moreh Nevuchim, fought the rabbis of France against the libel on him in 59 years. Today we live 30, 40 years. We just starting to live. Rabbi, we just started. We're just settling down right now. You understand? The Rambam had a brother, Rabbi David. He was a jeweler. Back then, jeweler was not like today. You go on a plane, go to India, buy a couple of things, go to Hong Kong. Back then, it was all by ship. Ship means you got pirates. Pirates means that you might not come back. And one time, the Rambam's brother, his name was Rabbi David, they made Yisachar Zvulun. Not like today, Yisachar Zvulun. You give $50 to the rabbi, you expect the rabbi to do everything for you in your life. Back then, Yisachar Zvulun meant 50% of my money is going to the Rav, and I'm not just giving him money to eat and to live. I'm giving him money to eat, live like a king. That's what Yisachar and Zvulun means. And his brother, Rabbi David, went on a trip to India from Egypt. It's a long trip. And he never came back. And the Rambam, for 1 year, he was depressed. He couldn't write. He took it so hard that his brother passed away. He couldn't move. He took it very hard, the death of his brother. He was very traumatized. The Jewish people went through a lot, and with all of that, by the way, there are more commentaries written on the Rambam than there is on the Torah. There's over 20,000 commentaries on the Rambam. 20,000. The Rambam! And he's not even a Mikubal. Imagine if you wrote on Kabbalah. Imagine. Who would he have been? Who he is.
Yeah, right.
You know, the Arya Kadosh says the Rambam his neshama comes from the left pe'ah. In Shamayim, there's pe'ot also. He comes from the left pe'ah in Shamayim.
Who says this?
Arya Kadosh.
The
The pe'ah of one of the highest partsufim in Shamayim. And the Ramban, Nachman, we always confuse them. Ramban, he comes from the right.
Wow.
That's why the Ramban did reach the level of Kabbalah. But the Rambam, he never reached it. Says the Arya Kadosh. Now back to the Torah Chacham. Torah Chacham was also from Spain. Many of our families could have also originated from Spain. Spain was the hub of the Jewish people, of the Sephardic Jewish people. Remember, the Bukharian people, we lived on the Silk Road. We have white Bukharians, we have dark Bukharians, we have blonde Bukharians, we have blue-eyed Bukharians, we have all different kinds of Bukharians.
Orange.
You go to Moroccans, you have orange Bukharians. If you go to Moroccans, I can spot a Moroccan from a mile away.
They're all dark.
They're all dark skinned, small noses. They like to color their hair blonde. They're not natural blondes. They all color their hair. You could spot a Moroccan from a mile away. Iraqi, forget about it. Mitzri, forget about it unless it's mixed with Ashkenazi. Then you can't spot it. But the Bukharian, you can't always spot them because they come in different shapes and sizes and colors. Why? Because Bukharians don't come all from the same place. This was the Silk Road. In the Silk Road, everybody came to do what? Kesef is Ahab. They say the Molokandovs, for example, they come from Teman. They're all Kohanim. They originated from Teman, from the Yemenites.
They where
You understand?
the money
The
went.
Chayims are from Persia.
They say the Chayyim are from. They say the Gadaevs are also from Persia. Is that true or no?
Party?
So, anyways, Torah Chacham came from Spain. Spain, Sepharad. But by the way, even we say Sfarad, this, that, the original yeshivot were where? Bavel, Iraq, Iraqi, Talmud Bavli. By the way, Rav Hai Gaon, who did he teach? Rav Hai Gaon was the biggest Gaon, he was the last Gaon. Rav Hai and Rav Shira Gaon, they taught Rabbeinu Gershom. Rabbeinu Gershom took the Torah from Iraq, went to Germany, and taught the Torah over there. And he spread the Torah in Germany. That means all the Torah originally came from where? Yes, Rabbeinu Gershom he made 7 cherems. One of them is Baruch Hashem. There's only one wife for every Jew. Baruch Hashem. Imagine how the divorce rates would be up if there was more. So Rabbeinu Gershom, by the way, the Rosh says, Rabbeinu Asher, who's one of the greatest Rishonim, that almost a third of all the halachot that Shulchan Aruch is based on him. The Rosh says, whoever learned Torah from Rabbeinu Gershom, it's as if he heard Torah from Har Sinai.
Wow.
That's what the Rosh says on Rabbeinu Gershom.
Wow.
So when you say Rabbeinu Gershom, Me'or HaGolah, who's the Rebbe of Rashi,
Wow.
you have to say his name with trepidation and fear. First of all, Rabbeinu Gershom, he never made the cherem to go until our days. He made the cherem for 300 years. Till the end of that 1,000 year. Am I correct or no? We learned this together in Koda. He only made the cherem for 3. Second of all, his cherem was never on the Sephardic Jews.
But we accepted it.
We accepted it because...
We came to America.
Why?
Why?
I don't want to get into that right now. America did that. It's very political. But what happened? Shulchan Aruch never said that you can. Shulchan, that's where it ended. But even the Ramah, the Ashkenazi posek, the Ramah, Rabbeinu Meir, Rabbeinu Moshe Isser, even he said that if for a mitzvah, if you need let's say you're married to one woman, you can't have kids somewhere. She wants to stay married to you. She gives you permission to marry a second woman. The Ramah says you're allowed to. So where did this whole thing come up that you're not allowed to and this and that? You have to learn the Shulchan Aruch and the Even Ezer Siman Aleph Seif Yud over there. It's interesting. This Seifim we remember. What? It's a 5th Seif?
No, 500.
What?
500 years.
500 years ago, yeah. About 500 years ago, the big Ashkenazi rabbis, Taz, Shach, in their time, they made a vad of Gimel Aratzot. This vad of Gimel Aratzot, all the big Ashkenazi, you see, one thing that Ashkenazis have, we have to give them the round of applause for that. They have, their rabbis, they know how to get together. They know how to have achdut. When it comes to us, unfortunately, our people have achdut, but sometimes the rabbanim, it's like at the neck. But by them, like they have agudas, they have this. That's where their power is. And they said that we gotta take this cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, and we're going with it till the end. And they took it as a minhag already. This cherem turned into a minhag, and everybody who lives in their lands must follow their minhag. That's the halacha. The place where you are, you have to follow their minhag.
Yeah.
You understand? So therefore, we're in their land right now. This is they're in charge of the yeshiva shul. Now, what happened was that when we went to Israel, you guys are taking me off the Egel HaZahav over here, but it's very interesting. But when we went to Israel, Rav Herzog, who was the chief rabbi, you know the president of Israel today, his grandfather was the chief rabbi of Israel. Today, his guy is I don't know what he keeps, but I think he grew a beard for Avelut. So in his time, the chief rabbi of the Sephardim was Rav Ben Zion Meir Chai Uziel. Remember that name, Ben Zion Meir Chai Uziel. It's a serious name. V'yikareh shemo v'Yisrael Ben Zion. It's Ben Meir Chai. How many names are you giving this kid? Ben Zion Meir Chai Uziel. He was the Gadol Hador. He's before Avovadia. Him and Rav Herzog made a deal. We're accepting this minhag in Eretz Yisrael.
Wow.
They made a stamp. And not only that, no more mitzvat yibum. No more levirate marriage.
No more boom boom.
There was a lot of mafios, Nikim, this, that, they would kill each other, this, that. Beheter, I'm marrying my sister. No. You understand? So they came and they said, finitos. It's done. Finished. No more. And till today, we're like this. We're inside this, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We shouldn't be too much inside the ta'avot. The Gemara says a Talmid Chacham shouldn't be with his wife like a rooster. He has to be, but a little bit tzirpenia. I said it right?
Yeah.
You gotta have to have a little bit of you gotta hold yourself back. Now, the Torah Chacham, back to him. Torah Chacham, HaKadosh. Him, the Rashash, and the Chida. Ashkenazim say Chida. The Chida. We say the Chida. They came together and they said they were living in the 1700s. You know who lived in the 1700s? Ramchal, Baal Shem Tov, Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, Rashash, the Gra, Talmidei Agra, Leshem Shova. This was not Leshem Shova, but this was a generation of. I once heard by a historian, a very reputable historian, you could take a rock and throw it into the 18th century and you would fall in a Gaon. This was the century of Geonim. It was like a burst of Jewish enlightenment, and at the same time there was also enlightenment by the Goyim, Rousseau, Montesquieu, all these guys who came up with democracy. They also lived during this time. So Zelu Madze Asa Elokim.
Evens out.
Exactly. So they said, so the Torah Chacham and the Chida and the Rashash, they said, listen, Ad Matai, let's make Yichudim, connections of Hashem's name. Let's bring Mashiach Tzidkenu. Why? The secret was the Rashash himself was Mashiach. How? He had Nishmat Chizkiyahu HaMelech inside of him. So he was ready, he had the Ibur Nishmat of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. And he was able to bring Mashiach by being Megale himself, if he had the permission. And the Torah Chacham was Nishmat Yirmiyahu HaNavi. Jeremiah, the prophet. Yirmiyahu HaNavi was the one that prophesied the destruction of the temple. But he's also Gilgul Shlomo HaMelech. So they were able, and the Chida himself was a big neshama. Doesn't say he's Gilgul though. So they came together, and we still know where the room is in Yerushalayim. The room is known. It's a deep basement in Yeshiva, the old Yeshiva Bet El. They went deep inside. There was a natural spring over there, and now a natural spring of water is freezing cold.
Mikveh.
They went inside the mikveh all night. They were doing yichudim, and they heard a bat kol that said that you guys did something that you weren't allowed to do, and all of you choose which kind of death you want. Choose which death you want. The Torah Chacham chose poorness, to live a life of poverty. Rashash chose actual death. That year he passed away.
Exile.
And the Chida chose exile. Exile is like death. That's why we send the guy who killed by mistake into exile. And poorness is like death too. And like this, they all
Went their own ways.
dispersed. They went their own way. They never were able to bring the Yud because it was before the time. You understand? This was the Torah Chacham. But look to what kind of level they got. This is a very famous story. It's a very known story, and it's a very true story of the Torah Chacham. was Gaon Olam. Now, so I have this sefer called the Torah Chacham. I have this sefer. Now, this book, Torah Chacham, I'm going to tell you something crazy about it. Something crazy. Something awesome. We know there was a big Sephardic rabbi called the Ben Ish Chai. We all know him, right? We see his picture, but how old was he in that picture, by the way? 26 years old. Look at that beard. We can't grow that beard at 26. He's 26 years old in that picture. His father just passed away. His father just passed away during that time. He allowed one picture to be taken of him. There's a couple of more pictures in his lifetime, but not that many. One time he visited Israel, he went to the Marta Machpelah with Yareh, Rabbi Yedidia Rafael Abulafia. The Ben Ish Chai had a student. His name was Rav Salman Eliyahu. You guys might know his son, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, the famous posek in Rishon LeZion of Eretz Yisrael. He was the Rishon LeZion 2 times after Rav Ovadia. That means after Rav Ovadia there was Rav Bakshi Doron, who passed away in COVID time. Then after Rav Bakshi Doron was Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, who was a Mikubal, Tzaddik, Kadosh. Rav Mordechai, you guys all know Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, right? He passed away 2008, I think. That was during the time when they found like 50 tons of missiles from the Lebanon Sea. Mm-hmm. And there was a whole story that his death made them find it. It was all meant to go into Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. He was the one with the 2 watches of the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali's son said that my father came to me in a dream, and whenever the watch reaches a certain time, you know that Mashiach is going to come. He gave him a gold watch and a silver watch. It's a favor. You could go on YouTube and you could type, I'm not telling you to go on YouTube, but if you do, you might as well see something educational. You could go and you say Rav Mordechai Eliyahu and watches of the Baba Sali. It's going to show he himself is speaking over there. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu was father of Salman Eliyahu. When he was a young kid, his father passed away. He knew 8 languages. Wow. He was Iraqi. He knew French, Italian, English, British, Spanish. He knew Arabic. And his uncles, when he was young, he wasn't so religious. Maybe he kept Shabbat. And his uncles decided to send him to Oxford University. Oxford University. This is not Ivy League. This is the league. This is the Justice League. This is the university. Just going in there, you already have your diploma already, this, that. Oxford University is the prestigious university in Britain. One day he meets the Ben Ish Chai. He didn't know who the Ben Ish Chai was. Ben Ish Chai invited him to a shiur Torah. He said, wow, I never heard these things before, and I have such Torah. Such mataktak. You know what a mataktak is? Not sweet. Sweeter than the sweet. Mataktak. Can you understand? So he goes to his uncles and he says, guys, I've decided to stay in Iraq. What do you mean? We bought you the tickets already. You think it's cheap? They were very rich. The story goes, there was a watermelon on the table. One of his Iraqis have a lot of jow. So he took the watermelon and he was about to smash it on his nephew's head, but he missed him by an inch and it smashed on the table. It was going to kill him. He ran away from the house and he lived a life of poverty. Ben Ish Chai took him in and he started to teach him slowly, Gemara, Mishnah, until he became Gadol HaTzadikim in Iraq. But one thing he couldn't learn was Kabbalah. He couldn't learn Torah Hasod. They wouldn't go inside their brain. Ben Ish Chai said, I'm going to give you a sigula. When you come to shul, don't sit in the front and don't sit in the back. Sit by the door. When anybody old comes inside the shul over the age of 60, according to the Ari, you have to stand up. And there's a kavanah you have to make. Aleph Lamed, Aleph Lamed. Aleph Lamed, Aleph Lamed. Aleph Lamed Pei, Lamed Mem Dalet. Aleph Lamed Pei, Lamed Mem Dalet. That's called the Shin Ayin Nehorin, the 370 lights in Shamayim. Bring them down to your soul. You're going to see your neshama, everything's going to open up. Wow. And he started to do it. Not 1 day, 2 days. Calm down. Not 1 day, 2 days, Yoshua. By the way, your name also has the 370 lights inside. Our name has the 370 lights. He's flying, guys. He's flying. Come back down to earth. Come down. Anyways, he did it. Not one. He started to do this constantly, and he started to have a lot of hatzlacha b'limud asod, till he told his Rebbe, that Ben Ish Chai, I'm moving to Eretz Yisrael. I'm getting out of here. It was their dream. For anybody who has Yirat Shamayim is to live in Eretz Yisrael. Not because we were running away from anti-Semitism, we want to make this, get real estate. They wanted to leave. L'Shem Shamayim, be closer to Hashem, to be the Paltin Shel HaMelech, in the castle of the king. Rav Salman Eliyahu, he had a good job. He was a translator. He used to translate mismachim. Yeah, eight languages. Listen, it's a commodity, it's a hot commodity.
Yeah.
When he went, he actually said, Rebbe, I want to know one thing. Ben Ish Chai was Gadol Ador. By the way, he wore 2 small tefillins, but his tefillin was just sold on an auction, $50,000.
Oh, wow.
Who bought it?
It's in a museum in Or Yehuda. So the guy bought it and he put it in a museum. It should be forever.
He only had one film, right?
Two.
No, I'm saying did he wear the Rabbeinu Tzam?
Yeah, two
Oh, yeah.
together
Two
at the same time he worked. And interestingly, though, he didn't do what the Ari says to have double side black.
Oh, that's what it was.
I don't know why. Maybe he had a couple of pairs because back then, remember, it's not like today. Tefillin today is some matak. Back then, tefillin used to get very worn out easily. They say Rav Tzion Bracha, who our shul is named after him, Lashem. Rav Tzion Bracha used to switch his tefillin once a year. When he used to daven, he was always in the kotel davening, and the sweat and the sun used to make his, even though he used to get very short haircuts, the sweat used to go inside his tefillin, and it would start to bend, because the sweat makes it bend. It's leather. The tefillin is leather. And so he had to change it constantly, his tefillin. One funny story about tefillin, once the Baba Sali, when he came to Israel, he didn't want to live in Yerushalayim. He said, if I live in Yerushalayim and I see this damn mosque on top of Harabat, I'm going to do Yichudim over there, I'm going to knock this thing, I'm going to destroy it. Also Rav Chaim Sinwani said that. He said, I can't live in Yerushalayim. But Basali went to live in, first he went to Ashdod, then he got out of there, then he went to, Netivot.
Desert.
And then in the desert. You know, he used to go desert 4 or 5 hours at a time. And they didn't know what he was doing over there. He used to come back, he said, no Azza, no Shmazza, no Palestine, no Palestine, everything is
I should have picked up the mask already, you know?
No, listen, he can't live forever. But like tzaddikim are supposed to live forever. Why do we cry when a tzaddik passes away? Because they're supposed to live forever. It's our Avirot that takes them away. Anyways, back to what we were saying. So he told the Ben Ish Chai, I'm going to Israel. I want to know who's a true Mikubal that I can learn from. You're a Mikubal, I understand this, that. Ben Ish Chai was a big kapdan. I told you guys this before. He was very strict. It's not like you see today, Rabbi, oh, give me a hug, Muchi, a shov, this, that. Ben Ish Chai was a kapdan. He was serious. You should read some of his tshuvot to Rav Shimon Agassi. You know Rav Shimon Agassi is Shari Gilgulim. He would go, they would go at it. Rav Shimon Agassi would speak so respectfully to him, my Rebbe, my this, my that. And he would, yeah. One time Rav Shimon Agassi used to sell etrogim. Ben Ish Chai said this etrogims are pasul. Who sold this etrogim? Big fight was. He writes him a letter back. He didn't even go to see him. He wrote him a letter. He was afraid to see him. He said to the Ben Ish Chai, I'm sorry, my Rebbe. I thought they were kosher etrogim. And who was Rav Shimon Agassi? Gedol Hador, Nishmat Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Yehuda Ptaya said, I knew it was Nishmat Moshe Rabbeinu. Anyways, back to what you were saying. So the Ben Ish Chai said, I'm going to give you 3 ways to know who's a real Mikubal. By the way, none of these 3 things that I know of specifically anybody in this generation has. None of them exist today. I don't think so. He said, first of all, the Rashash, when you're going to go to Israel, when you're going to go to the rabbi who wants to teach you the Kabbalah, or want to learn from him, the Rashash has a book called Nahar Shalom, the Rivers of Peace. In the beginning of the book is 10 pages called Rechovot HaNahar, the streets of the rivers. On these 10 pages, you could learn your whole life. There is a book today called Ketzet HaShemesh. Just on the first 3 pages, he has 700 pages perush. This is just on the first 3 pages. It's called Rechovot HaNahar. At the end of Rechovot HaNahar, he describes the whole soul of Adam HaRishon. How many parts there are, where they come from, how many machtzavim, how many systems there are. But if you learn the Ari, you're like, where did he get this thing from? And the Rashash swore in Rav Shalom, I didn't move from the words of the Ari even 1 centimeter. So where did he get it from? He says the rabbi that could tell you where he got that from in the Ari, he passed the first test. Second test, on the Rashash there's a book called Torah Chacham. Chaim de la Rosa. Whoever, you could open a page of that book, a page, and he can explain to you that page, you will know he passed the second test. What was it? Who were the Talmidei Chachamim back then? Third test? I don't know anybody who could do that today. Maybe I just don't know enough people, and I know a lot of people. Third test, There is a book called Shemen Zayit Hin. It's Rav Shlomo Molcho. Whole book, questions on the Rashash. He brings a keta, a piece, asks 5 questions, breaks it apart. As if none of this was correct. Whoever you could open up the Shemen Zayit Hin and he could answer all the questions over there to defend the Rashash, he passes the 3rd test, that's a real Rebbe. Because how am I going to find a rabbi like that? He said, you asked me a question. I gave you the answer. Now go to Shalom. Sal Shalom, Habibi. המפתחות בפנים. לך לך מארצך ומולדתך מבית אביך. He goes to Yerushalayim. באמת, he goes from rabbi to rabbi. He can't find anybody who could do this. Tzaddikim. But they never went into it like that. Until he got to the great Syrian Rav. Sireski Ivrei. Rabbi Shaul Hayim Duwek HaKohen. Also known as the Sadeh. The Sadeh HaKadosh. This rabbi, he was blinded by Goyim. You know that. The Goyim blinded him on purpose. He was in the doctor and they blinded him.
Wow.
The Sadeh, he comes to him. Could you explain to me where the Rashash got this from? Tak, 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 tak. Boom, answers him. Torah Chacham, what page? Boom, answers him. Shemen Zayit Hin, 4 or 5 questions. Boom, 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 matak tak. אתה שומע? איזה גאונות? So he tells the Sadeh of Salman Eliyahu. This is our time. This is 50 years ago, 60 years ago. He tells him, "You're my Rebbe." Sadeh says, I may be a Rebbe, but who says you're worthy to be my student? You tested me! But who said you're worthy to be my student? You understand the Geonut over here? What happened to Rav Salman Eliyahu Adin? Not only he became his student, he also wrote a Perush on the whole Etz HaChaim called Kerem Shalomo. But unfortunately, after he passed away, bad guys came inside his house and stole half of his work. Until today, it's lost to us. They stole it with azut panim. While his wife was sitting shiva, they went inside the house, took his thing to make money out of it, and they went.
Maybe it'll come up to auction.
Maybe it'll come up to the auction. Who knows? If it'll come up, trust me, that thing will go over $1 million. I'm letting you know right now. Over $1 million. Do you know who the Kerem? Do you know who these tzaddikim was? The Torah Chacham. Anyways, why did I bring all this? The Torah Chacham, this, that, just to tell you one sentence in the Torah Chacham. One sentence. You have a zechut, Rabbi said. You're going to learn one sentence in the Torah Chacham. I'm going to tell it to you. Bezrato Yitbarach. Torah Chacham says something crazy, something awesome, something unbelievable. Use this for the rest of your life. This is a key to unlock your neshama. The Torah Chacham writes, say Amen. Amen. I beat you to it. Page 55, Daf Nun Hey. He writes like this. He says, a person does teshuvah. He fixes something, right? You go to Hashem, say, Hashem, I'm sorry, I did so and so and so and so. You fix something. You did the mitzvah, you were mekayim mitzvah teshuvah. You did vidui in the morning. You have to have kavanah. I'm doing right now mitzvah havidui, mitzvah teshuvah. Because there are certain times of the day, there are certain times of the week, and there are certain times of the month, and there are certain times of the year where a person could fix in those times 1,000 times more than if he would do it in other times. They're called et ratzons, rare moments. And during those rare moments, you could pick up hundreds more sparks of mitzvot and ma'asim tovim than if you would have done it in another time. For example, if a person, and I'm going to tell you something in the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not even going to the Kabbalah right now. In the Shulchan Aruch. One of the only times the Shulchan Aruch writes a segula is here. The Shulchan Aruch writes, whoever davens early doesn't mean dawn. Early means nitz. Whoever davens early, it's a segula. It's a hatzlacha. Why? That Rashash says, whoever says Kriyat Shema Lamita closer to midnight, he's mitaken 10 times more than if you would have said it earlier on. There are certain moments where you could do certain things and you could fix more. Today is one of those days. Today is Purim Katan. It's not once a week, once a year. It's once in 3 years. To mifasfes this moment, to miss this moment would mean what? You're crazy. Chas Shalom.
And Shemitah.
And it's Shemitah. Thank you very much. And Putin is about to go to war with Ukraine, which is go magog. No, I'm kidding. Such an et ratzon. What's Purim Katan? Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Milublin, the son of the Chozeh Milublin, whose books are right there on the top, writes like this. On Purim Katan, a person could reach bracha and yeshuot even if he feels like he's not worthy. That's why it's called Purim Katan. And pay attention, every year Purim falls out on which parasha? Ki Tisa, and this week. But this year, Ki Tisa doesn't fall out on Purim. It falls out on when? Purim Katan. Do we say Vidui on Purim Katan? No. Tomorrow it's a mitzvah to do a mishteh. A small seudah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a mitzvah, yeah, it's a sigula. It's a beracha, yeah. It says take some bread, take a little bit of wine. If you're Bukharian, you could take some whiskey, maybe something Irish. You know, mitaken the ritzotzot. And you have to ask from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, by the way, it says in the pasuk, Shelach. You know, some people like say, I talk to some people, say, why am I bothering Hashem so much? Who say listen to me? I'll tell you two things that I've told people in my life. Two things that are very important. I think these two, and we're going to end with this because I know it's late. We didn't touch the Egel HaZahav because you know what? Once I start talking about the Torah Chacham, I can't stop because I love it. Got real because I love it. All right, when you love somebody, you can't stop. It just comes out. You understand what I mean? But I think we learned a lot today. I think so. It says by the two things, yeah. It says over there, and I also used to think like this. I remember when I was younger, when I was single, I used to see people daven. You know what you have in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Tiftach lanu sharei ahava, amen. Sharei hatzlacha, amen. Parnasa, amen. I used to look at those people like, why are they yelling so much for parnasa? Then when I got married, I understood why. And then
he was only married, guys.
But even when I was married, I'm like, wow, I'm going to ask Hashem for parnasa, this, that. How much could he hear me already? Barech Aleinu 3 times a day. In Shema Koleinu poteach et yadech. Another 2 times in Shacharit poteach et yadech. In Mincha we say poteach et yadech. No, come on. How much could I say? But I'm wrong. You see, whoever thinks like that doesn't think that Hashem is infinity. If you think like the way I thought, Chas v'shalom, it's a little bit kfirah. Because if you think for a second that you're making Hashem sick of you, that means you feel that Hashem is limited. But by translation, infinity means no limit. So you could speak to Him 1,000,000 times like you never spoke to Him at all. Because every time you speak to Him, it's like it's the first time you spoke to Him. That's why King David said, Shlach al Hashem yavcha. Throw on Hashem your burden. Don't be shy. Throw on Him your burden. Take your sack, keep on throwing on Him. And He will give you the bracha. Don't be shy to ask Hashem 1,000,000 times a day. You're on your way to the train. Hashem, bless me with parnasah today, please. Rav Victor Miller says, whoever does that is Mikayim, one of the 13 attributes of faith. You believe in Sachar, in reward, and Onish, and punishment. You're Mikayim mitzvah min Torah. Is there mashu katan? Shlach al Hashem yavcha. Throw on Hashem your burden. V'hu yechal keleka. I never forget, I saw one clip by Rav Chaim Kanievsky when he was 20 years younger. Today he's like 90-something. I'm talking when he was like 70-something. I had the zechut of visiting him once. I remember the time when I visited him. I remember. I never felt such trepidation. If Michael Aminov was here, you could have asked him. He was together with me. Such trepidation before I met him. It was like I went inside Malach Hashem Tzvakot. Malach Hashem Tzvakot. They once asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky, person has a bad mother-in-law. That's a video. It's a mom. He said, what should you do? What can a guy do? Is there a book that we could learn? Some kind of lecture we could... Titpalel. One word, he said. He answers everything one word. Titpalel. Pray. You might think he's saying that answer just to get rid of you. You're wrong. When he says Titpalel, he means Titpalel. Titpalel means you should daven. Don't think that you're burdening Hashem. Only one time Hashem says you're burdening me. You know where? In the last prophet's works. It's called Sefer Malachi, the book of Malachi. Who some say that the Gemara says it was Ezra, Sofer. God said you're burdening me with your questions. What question? I'll tell you. It's the only. This is the question that makes people chilonim. What's the question? What's the $1 million question? How come righteous suffer and the wicked have it good? Hashem says you're burdening me with your questions. That's the only time Hashem says that. Why? It's a logical question. If you don't open your eyes, you're not going to see the answer. You're blinding yourself. The truth is the opposite. If you really want to see it truthfully, look how religious Jews live. Look how righteous people live. Look how Goyim live. Look how Rishayim live. You think Rishayim have it good their whole life? They can't sleep at night. The tax evasions, this, that. They don't know who's after them the whole... And you know what? When bad things happen to Rishayim, you don't look at that. No. When the bad things happen to Tzaddikim, like, why Hashem? Hashem says, you're burdening, not burdening me, you're burdening me by burdening yourself. And then the book of Malachi ends like this. He says, the day is coming, burning like an oven. Who will live to see the end? Whoever is written in the book. Kol hanichtav katuv b'sefer. Twice the Navi says this. One in the book of Malachi, one in the book of Daniel. There is a book. And in this book, whoever is written in this book will live to see the end of Gog and Magog. Now, there is an end to this whole story. There is the end to the Birurim. We're in the year 5782. There's 218 years left. Has to be an end to all of this. Where'd that end? I saw one amazing thing, and this is the second thing I always tell people. It says, we're the generation of the heel of Adam Arishon, right? I heard from a rabbi that I'm very close with, that I very much love. Very, very nice rabbi. He's in Eretz Yisrael. He says, we're not the heel of Adam Arishon. What do I mean by that? Even the heel has the top, the middle, and the bottom.
Put the top on
the middle, the top of the heel is where the bone is. The bone, you know, the bone that sticks out. The Achilles, yeah. The bottom, the middle part of the heel is the actual foot. Then there's the bottom of the heel.
The soul.
The soul. Do you know what's in the soul? Dead skin. Do you know why we don't feel Hashem in our avodah? Because our nishamot come from the bottom of the heel of Adam Arishon. In the bottom of the heel, that's where the dead skin is. In that dead skin, there's no feeling. You could take a needle, you could poke it, you're not gonna feel it. There's no feeling over there. You could take. Person has a wart over there, lo aleinu. He takes a scissor and cuts that thing off. He doesn't feel it. He's just cutting it. He's like, he doesn't understand. Where is he gonna reach? The bone? Why? That's where our nishamot come from. The bottom of the heel of Adam Arishon. That's why we don't have feeling in our avodat Hashem. And you guys that are sitting over here and have that feeling, you have to look at yourself as, wow! We're powerful nishamot. We're batteries. We keep the world pumping in our avodat Hashem. Whether it's Purim Katan, Yom Kippur, actual Purim Badar Bet, we have the power to open up the olamot. So B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, we spoke a lot today. We said a lot of interesting ideas. May Hashem bless all the donors that gave. I know we didn't say their names. I hope you guys will forgive me. I love you. Amen. I thought of you. We said your names before I said them. But I want to bless all the donors with bracha v'atzlacha. Refuah shlema to Shemuel ben Shoshana, Bimhera, and Hatzlacha to the Shimona family, Zivugim Agonim to Samantha Avital Bat Shoshana, and also Rachel Aviva Bat Shoshana. Refuash Leon Nishmat, Irina Bat Yafa, and Hatzlacha Le Pinchaso family, Arono family, and Hashem should give everyone over here. Don't waste your time, Rabbi Yisai. Yemesh Notenu Bem Shivim Shana. King David said, our lives are 70 years. Im begiburot, not the giburot, giburot. That's how Syrians say it, giburot. Im begiburot shemonim shana. After 80, varahaba amal va'avin. We don't know what's left of us. You're gonna play sheshbesh in the park? That's what you want your old life to be? You wanna play sheshbesh? No. Okay, checkers you wanna play? The chess? Toida! You wanna connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? You want to go to the Beit Knesset, you want to live it, you want to be connected to Hashem, you want to see your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. You want to take one of those pictures, you know? You have your kids, you guys, tell you like 150 people. That's what you want, no? And be Oved Hashem, Baruch Adonai Le'olam.